Well, hello YouTubers, gold lovers, folks of all sorts visiting my channel. Welcome, Mike here. Today we're gonna look at something I got in a goodie box sent to me by a buddy of mine, Jim, in Scottsdale, Arizona. He sent me, a big heavy rock. And it came with a note. And we'll look at that. Gold ore from an 1890s mine in central Nevada, collected in 1978. So Jim sends me goodies from time to time. And I'll tell you what, this is one heavy, heavy rock. And it's got lots of sparkly stuff in it. I can believe that this is gold ore. Anybody can believe it's gold ore just looking at it with all the sparkly stuff. See it sparkling? Wow, look at all the sparklies. But here's the thing. Let me get my loop out here and take a close-up look at it. Now through my loop, I can see that that sparkly stuff is actually iron pyrite, or what they call fool's gold. So it's not real gold that we're seeing sparkling, but that doesn't mean there isn't gold in there. No, not at all. This has all the indications of gold ore. I mean, iron pyrite is a good indicator of gold. It's just not gold itself. I also see some chalcopyrite in here. Some other sulfide minerals. We've got some oxidation here, where the sulfides have oxidized to basically rust or iron oxide. It's very, very dense. These are all good indications that this could contain precious metals. So Jim has more pieces of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this down, crush it, pan it out, and see if there's actually any free mill gold in it. Now, free mill gold is gold that you can liberate from rocks just by mechanical crushing and gravity separation processes. So we'll see if there's any free mill gold in here by crushing this and panning it down. Panning is a type of gravity separation. But if we can't find any gold doing it that way, all these sulfides could easily have gold trapped in them. Also, there could be silver in here. There could be other metals in here too. So they could be trapped in the sulfides. So if we can't get free mill gold out of this, what we can do is we can try some chemical processes like smelting, fire assay, to see if we can get some gold out of this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to really try and get gold out of this rock best I can with the tools I've got, and we'll see if there's any gold to be had in it. And then I'll let Jim know what he's got, okay? So basically I'm doing an assay for Jim. So the first thing I need to do, I need to break this down small enough to get it in my rock crusher, because this is way too big to get in my rock crusher. It's going to have to be in much smaller pieces. So I'm going to have to whale away on this with a hammer until I break it down into smaller pieces, and hopefully it's not too tough. We'll find out. So let me get set up for that. But before we get to busting it up, let's get a weight on it. See what this bad boy weighs. So then I'll be able to calculate some kind of yield if I do get some gold or precious metals out of it. So 1 kilogram, 442 grams. Okay, so that's what we got. For those of you in the imperial world, 3 pounds, 2.9 ounces. Okay, so 1.442 kilograms. Alrighty. Now let's bust it up. Okay, I got a little bit of basic PPE on here. Got a face shield and some gloves before I start hammering on this thing, just because rock bits are going to go flying. Got my big Est-wing framing hammer here. I got the rock in a box to catch all the pieces. Now, if this rock is too hard to bust up with this framing hammer, I'll get a sledgehammer out. So let's see what happens here. Well, what do you know? All right. A few pieces escaped the box. Them back in there. And bust up some of these a little smaller. Yeah. good. It's not that hard. Some of my other videos I've busted up gold ore I've collected from old mines and from quartz seams. And some of that stuff, super hard. Didn't want to bust up on me. But this stuff, breaking up pretty good. A few pieces escaping the box again. I'll gather them all up. I think this stuff is small enough to go through my ore crusher now. So let me take it over to the ore crusher and we'll get started. Give it a preliminary crush and see what we can get out of it. It was a pretty rock. It was a shame to do that to it, but if you want to get the gold out of it, that's what you got to do. So before taking this stuff to the crusher, I thought I'd give it a quick look on the inside now that I've exposed the innards of this thing by crushing it up. And I'll tell you what, the sulfides are just all through the whole inside of this rock. It's basically solid sulfides is what we got here. I am not seeing any obvious free mill gold in it, but you know, if this really came from like an 1890s mine, the old timers wouldn't have left anything with visible gold in it. You know, they'd have been looking at it and they'd have taken the easy to get stuff. So the fact that this got left behind means it probably didn't have any obvious free mill gold in it. But that doesn't mean there isn't gold there. So let me take it over to the crusher. We'll crush it up, reduce it, and do some panning on it and see if we can find any free mill gold in it. Okay, so how am I going to crush this ore? I've got my mini jaw crusher here. And the way this thing works is it's got a fixed hardened steel plate in here. It's about straight up and down, and it's got a moving hardened steel plate which is at an angle like this, and this is hardened steel plate's going to move back and forth. So what we got here is like a V shape in here, and this moving plate is going to crush the ore against the fixed plate, and as it breaks up it's going to fall further and further and further down the V and get broken up into smaller pieces. At the bottom of the V there's a very narrow slit. So only stuff that's been broken up into a very small size can make it out of the crusher. Now this has a place to put a crank on it to run it, but being generally lazy as I am, I'm going to run it with this. So let me stick this in here. Let the machinery do the hard work. This right here is going to catch the ore as it comes out the bottom of the jaw crusher. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sieve it right into my gold pan. I've got a 20 to the inch sieve right here. I'm going to sieve that stuff right into my gold pan. Anything that won't go through the sieve can go right back through the jaw crusher for another treatment. I've got the ore here, preliminary broke up enough to get into the jaw crusher. I got a little PPE here. I got some hearing protection and some dust protection. This generally produces a lot of dust. It's generally quite loud. So let me get ready to go. I'm going to move everything off this table because this vibrates a lot and everything will fall off the table anyway from the vibration. So get everything out of the way. I'll put a couple pieces of ore in it, just getting ready to go. Maybe just the one big one to start with. And we'll see how it crushes it up. Then I'll put more in as we go. Let me get my PPE on. The air compressor's all charged up. You'll hear it come on as we're going. So let's see what happens here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see the action a bit better. We should see ground up ore coming out of the bottom of the crusher here very shortly. There it is. There it is. Yeah. Nice. That's working pretty good. Alright, let me put a little bit more in so I get enough for a decent sample. I don't think I'm going to crush it all down, but I'll crush up enough to get a decent sample out of it to pan. And then depending on what I see in the pan, we'll decide what to do with the rest of it. So here's the sort of crush I got on the stuff first time through. I'll tell you what, that is some dense, heavy, and dark colored stuff. And I'll tell you what, I'm getting a fine black dust all over my fingers. I'm going to wash my hands really thoroughly after this, because this could contain lead sulfide or galena. It could also contain arsenopyrite, which contains arsenic. So yeah, so I'm going to keep my dust mask on during this process, this whole process. I'm going to wash my hands really well afterwards, just to make sure I get those toxic metals off me if they're there. But we're going to sieve this stuff down right into the gold pan. Yep. And what won't go through the sieve is going right back into the jaw crusher for a second treatment. And then we'll see if we can get some more fines to pan out. Ideally, this should be even finer than this to tell if there's any free mill gold in it. But this will give us a good preliminary idea of whether there is or not. So let me run this stuff through again, and then we should have enough to pan down. Put my hearing protection back on before I get started. This stuff can go right back in here. Put the catch basin under it first. There we go. Move this stuff out of the way so vibration doesn't knock it down. Put the lid on and do it. Oh yeah, nice and fine. So here's the stuff that's gone through the second time. We got a lot more fines in here I can sift out. And that is plenty of material to try panning out and see if there's any free mill gold in it. So this stuff here I'm just going to set aside for now, because we might need another process in the future if we don't see any gold in the pan. So this stuff is going to go into that secondary process if necessary. But this is more than enough to see if we've got free mill gold. So let me go over to my panning tub and we'll pan this down and see if we can find any gold in it that was liberated by the crushing operation. Okay, I got everything I need to pan here. I got my stuffer bottle, I got my gold pans, I got a little jet dry. I'm going to put some jet dry in the water here. That will help break any surface tension on the water and prevent any fine gold from floating. Yes, fine gold will float. Don't argue with me on that. People like to argue. I'm only going to pan out about half of this stuff to start with, just to make life a little easier, because this stuff is dense and heavy. So I'm only going to put about half of the stuff in the pan. Okay? And I'm taking some precautions here. First off, I'm panning in a tub, so I'm not going to lose anything. Everything going into the tub is going to stay in the tub so I can run it again if I need to. Plus, I've got a bigger pan down at the bottom. I'm going to pan into it. I want to catch the bulk of the material in the pan because it's going to be easier to clean out that pan than the tub. Whether we find any free gold in this stuff or not, I'm going to want to roast and smelt all these sulfides anyway, and this is mostly sulfides. So I want to capture it so I can process it further down the road. So we're using a tub and we're using a catch basin in the tub to catch everything that comes off. Oh, this is some dark, heavy material too, let me tell you. We get it all good and stratified here. When I got the pan tilted at an angle like this, which you probably can't see from the angle you're viewing, but it's tilted like this. And shaking it like this is going to cause all the heavy stuff to settle down in the bottom of the pan right along this corner right here. That's where I want all the heavy stuff to settle and stay. The lighter stuff's going to come up to the top. Gold should be the heaviest stuff if there's any in here, but boy, some of these sulfides are pretty darn heavy. So this might be tricky to separate the gold from the sulfides. We'll see. And now that I've got it stratified, I'm just going to gently wash off the top layer. Gently. making sure everything stays at the bottom. I don't want to mix it up. And then I'll stop periodically and re-stratify. And then wash the top layer off again. So we're leaving the heaviest stuff at the bottom and getting rid of the lighter stuff on top. And the gold, if there's any free gold in here, should be down at the bottom. We'll find out. Yes, I know I'm going pretty slow. You watch some other people on YouTube, they'd have had this all panned down by now and be working on the second pan, but I'm being slow and being careful because I want to know exactly what's in this stuff, you know? Not just is there gold in it. I want to know what kind of sulfides we got once we get it panned down some. I'm curious. This is not material I've ever worked with before, so I don't know what's here. But all the signs are there. It's got all the ingredients needed for gold to be there. Doesn't necessarily mean it was baked properly, but it's got all the ingredients. So we'll see. Get rid of a little bit more of this and then we'll see if we can wash it back and see what might be hiding down there in that corner. Sure is a lot of sparkly stuff in there, but so far I'm not seeing anything that looks like gold. Let's see if we can locate some. Get this stratified real good again. And then wash some of this material off the top. You know what? Oh, there's so many sparkly things in there. Let me get my loupe. That might just be... I see something that looks like gold, but it might just be a shiny piece of pyrite. Let me look. Oh, there's so much sparkly stuff in here. This is going to be a nightmare to pan out. Because there's so much stuff in here that looks like gold, you know? Let's just get down to the bottom and see if there really is any gold in here. Definitive gold. So far I haven't seen anything that's for sure gold. Just lots of prismatic pyrites shining in the light. So I'll just keep gently, and again, I know I'm going slow. People's attention spans aren't that long, but this isn't TikTok, okay? There's just so much stuff in here that looks like gold. I don't know if you can see how shiny this stuff is from your angle, but to me, my goodness, it's just every little bit of it sparkly and shiny down in here. Every little bit of it. A lot of it looks like gold. Even though I know deep down that it isn't. It's not dense enough to be gold. As gently as I'm rocking this pan, the gold wouldn't be moving because it's denser than these pyrites. The gold would be sitting right there in the corner of the pan. It wouldn't be going anywhere. Stratify and wash some more down. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Well, if there's any real gold in here, we should be seeing it soon. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. I have a feeling if this is really gold-laden ore, most of the gold's going to be locked up in the sulfides, which is not surprising. I think I said earlier, the old timers would not have left anything that had obvious free mill gold in it. Because that stuff's just too easy to deal with. Well, we got some stuff in there that's really starting to look like gold. Up around here. It's a little more promising than anything I've seen so far, but it's not definitive. It could just be big sulfide crystals not well broken up. Let me re-stratify and keep cleaning this up. See what we can find. Yeah, those are sulfide crystals. They're not moving like gold. Because they're moving, gold would sit still. Starting to uncover some dark stuff in there too. What is that? Could be garnets. I might actually see some gold in there. Not a lot, but a few pieces. It's definitely the right color. A few little bits and pieces in amongst all the golden sulfides. Yeah, we're down to definitely the heaviest stuff now. It doesn't want to move. Let me tap the very heaviest stuff up to the top of the pan and have a look and see what's in there. You know what? There might actually be some gold here. It's really hard to tell though, amongst all those golden sulfides. I might have to take it out in the sun and look at it in the sun. I mean, there's not a huge amount of gold here. Free mill gold. There's not a huge amount, but there might actually be some. Okay, I don't know how well that's showing up. Probably not very well. This isn't as good as my loupe. Okay, we don't have a lot of free mill gold here. There may be a couple of tiny flower specks of gold in amongst all those sulfides, but all that golden stuff, I guarantee it, it's pyrite. It is not gold. But pretty much this entire pan was full of pyrite, okay? And gold can hide inside pyrite. So there's a couple of different ways we could try to see if there is any gold in these pyrites. So let's try something a little different. Okay, so we didn't find any free mill gold that way. So what are we going to try next? Well, I'm going to try one more mechanical method, okay? What I'm going to do is I have a much finer screen here. We used a 20 mesh screen to start with. This is the finest screen I've got. This is an 80. Holes are 1/4 as big. So what I propose to do here is I've got my other ore crusher out, and I've got this material that I held back. I only panned out about half of it. I'm going to put some of this in here. And I'm going to crush this stuff down until it goes through that 80 mesh screen, and then we'll pan some of that out and see if we see any free mill gold, okay? Because we just may not be liberating it from the sulfides well enough. So let me get my PPE back on, my breathing protection, my hearing protection, because this is a little loud. I am working on better ore crushing technology, by the way. Trying to build a flail mill. Getting the parts right now that I need is not easy. We still got post-COVID supply chain issues and post-hurricane delivery delays. So for now, I'm still using this thing. So what I want to do is I want to see if I can get some of this through the 80 mesh screen. Yeah, so we're getting some in there, good. So I will keep this up until I have enough material to do a decent panning test, and we'll see if we get anything good out of it that way, okay? So you don't have to watch this whole thing. We'll be back when I'm done. Okay, I've done enough pounding and sifting that I have a big enough sample here that we can try panning again. So now that this has gone through an 80 mesh screen, let's see if all that pounding liberated any free gold out of this stuff. Now it's possible. Some gold is so fine that you need to grind this stuff up to like 500 or 600 mesh to get it out. Hopefully that's not the case here. Ooh, this fine stuff does not want to wet. It's acting a little hydrophobic, which is kind of odd, but I'll get my hands in here, get them dirty, and get the stuff good and wet. Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you just got to reach in your pan and mix the stuff up by hand. Sometimes it doesn't want to wet. You know, and there's some gold ore that just no amount of milling is going to free up the gold in it. There's what's called solid solution stuff, where basically it's just an atom of gold here and an atom of gold there distributed throughout the bulk of the stuff. So it's, you know, you can't grind it up fine enough to separate out the gold. You have to use chemical techniques. So we'll see what we get here. Hopefully we will see something this time. Boy, it's much finer now. Now it's making the water muddy. I have no doubt that this did come from a gold mine. But I also have no doubt that the old timers, 1890s, they didn't leave any obvious free gold behind either. If they left anything behind, it would be the hard to get stuff that wasn't worth their time and couldn't be had with their technology back then. This might actually be fairly rich by today's standards, but might need some advanced technology to get the gold out of it. Let's see. Now I've got the same problem here, let me tell you. Everything in the pan looks like gold, even though it's not. If anything, it's worse. Now that I've ground it finer, there's so many more little golden sparklies in there from the sulfide crystals that... oh my goodness. Yes, this is definitely almost impossible to pan material. And again, everything is going into my catch pan down here because I'm not done with this material. Even if I can't find any gold in it this way, I'm going to try some other stuff. I'm not ready to give up yet. So I don't want this material going walkies on me and getting away. Not seeing anything obviously gold yet. We're down to really the nitty-gritty here. There's not much left. Wash some more of these fine sulfides out of here. See if I leave any gold behind. Go out in the sun and take a look. Alright. It's really hard to see. But some of this super fine stuff down here in the corner of the pan, it does look like gold. But boy, is it super fine. Super fine. But it does have a somewhat different color than the sulfides. And it's very fine. So I'm thinking we're liberating some very fine free mill gold from these sulfides by grinding them finer and finer. So this is kind of probably the stuff that needs to be ground to 500 or 600 mesh to really liberate the gold in it, however much gold it has. But the way I'm doing it, this is not the right way. So we need to try something else. Let's talk about that. Okay, I just thought of something I probably should have thought of earlier. I got a magnet here. Let's try something. Oh my goodness, look at that. Yeah, okay. That explains a lot. In fact, here's a couple pieces of the crushed up ore. Look at that. That explains why this stuff is so heavy. Okay, it's not that it's solid sulfides. What it is solid magnetite with veins of sulfides in it. And that's another reason why this stuff is so hard to pan out. Because the difference in the density between the sulfides and the magnetite is negligible. So it's really, really hard to separate them. This is pretty much going to be impossible to separate with gravity separation, at least not easily. I mean, keep at it here. Look, I'm leaving behind the golden sulfides, but I'm sure I'm getting training a lot of them in the black magnetite too. So this area in here is enriched in the golden sulfides. But really, yeah, this is going to be a hard road to hoe to get any gold in these sulfides out of them with all this magnetite. So where do we go from here? Because I'm not convinced there isn't some gold in this stuff, okay? So the next step, obviously, is going to have to be chemical. We're going to have to try smelting. Try smelting this stuff. So I'm going to have to get some stuff together, and we'll try smelting down this ore and see if we can find the gold that's supposedly hiding in it. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some. Maybe not a lot, but some. So I think in the next video, we will give this stuff a smelt. We'll roast it, we'll smelt it, and see what we can find. Feel free to leave me a comment on this if you have some ideas about what I ought to do with this stuff. Please, if you have experience, ideas, whatever, suggestions, leave a comment. I'm always open to suggestions, so down at the bottom of the video, leave a comment. So subscribe to see the next video on this and any other future videos I release. If you like this video, found it all interesting, educational, inspirational, whatever, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see those future videos. Check out my second channel, Electric Geek 64. There's good stuff going on over there all the time. Like, subscribe there, leave a comment. And thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.